Hello, everyone, and welcome along to the crossover. I'm Martin Douglas. Hello, welcome. And he's David Edgar. David, hello.
Hi. You changed the name of it again.
Well, I remember I said the last time I'm going to call it a crossover, and I said it was a great name, and I thought, well, keep it that. Keep it that. Although, do you know, I've had a few people, David, say to me, why does David never host it? And I went, because I'm the better host.
No, I can't be arsed. Yeah, and I get to talk more this way. So, look, at the end of the day, you keep your star player in the star position. So I'll let you decide how you take that.
This is very true. I mean, I'm no Jim White's best pal, you know.
We were due on last Wednesday, and I couldn't do it. And I said to Martin, but I am free next week, so we'll just put it back a week. Worked out pretty well in content terms to do that, as it happened after a fairly dull international break. So, last week's show would have been about 15 minutes, I think.
It really would have been. I don't know how you find it when, not even just during an international break, but during an international break where there's literally no news about Rangers, right? Because you do about 6,000 shows a week.
Yeah, there's always some news. I think that's one thing. Like since we start, my curtains need ironed. That's one thing since we I just noticed that there in the background. We started it, and there's always some news, but obviously it's a lot quieter through the international break. There's no doubt about it. And yeah, you need to, with the other shows, it's just it's your chance to kind of reset. It's sort of what Danny Rule did. He was talking about that it really was the first chance that we'd had since he came in, because it moves at such breakneck speed during this time of year in particular, because it certainly feels like game, midweek game, midweek game, and it never really lets up until you get a break.
Actually, I always say it never really lets up.
Nice. The one that I actually found I find worse is a summer where there's no international tournament, because you've got an international tournament that you've got stuff to discuss there, because you will hopefully have players away playing at it as well, and we do shows on the international tournament, so the summers without those can be. But hey, we got through COVID, we'll get through quiet international.
Yeah, but the good thing you've got now is you've got the Euros, the World Cup, and then you've got the Club World Cup. And then they'll have
which I enjoyed. I enjoyed it. Fair about the quarters, if I'm being honest. You don't want to see. But a mate of mine, actually, Gordon Watson, he's the general manager of Auckland, so I had a bit of an interest in it from that, because he was there and he was kind of sending me reports of it, and what was happening there. So I enjoy it. We're bad in the UK for not taking new football tournaments seriously, and it actually kind of holds us back a little bit. And if you look at people aren't that bothered that Chelsea won it. Well, they might not be now, but they will be in the future, because it will become something, because FIFA will make it become something. They'll put so much money into it.
100 million for winning that.
Exactly. So it will become something down the line. But it's the same even with like the Nations League. In Britain, we don't take it seriously, but the other countries do. And maybe that's why when, I don't care, but for England, maybe that's why when they get to tournaments, they've got a winning mentality, because they treat that as a serious event, whereas in Britain, we don't.
Can I just ask, and I hope you don't take offence to this, David, right? Is that actually curtains behind you? Because it looks like kind of steel.
Yeah, basically what it is my wife got curtains for the room, and I don't care. I'm a man, right? I do not. I have never had an opinion on a curtain in my life. I never will have. I use them to keep the light out and stop people seeing it. So they have a practical thing for me. I need to set up, but remember, I didn't ever want to do video. You made me.
Yeah, I did. So
I need to set up like a bit in the house, and I keep going, I need to do that. I never get round to it, and I keep, meaning to set up a bit and do a background and stuff. And do you remember I bought that background actually?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Aye. our last live show, Colin and Kev, who do the merch, they were like, "Can we have that? You know, show people where it is." I says, "I no bother." So I went to open it up earlier tonight, and it's broken, and they hadn't fucking told me that it was broken. Right?
Broken is it though? Can you still use it?
Well, no, I'll need to fix it. But they didn't tell me. So that reminds me, actually, just note. Kick.
Sorry, hold on. What do you mean you'll need to fix it?
Okay, Sally will need to fix it. But there's neither here nor there, really. Hey, listen, I always see myself as a managerial capacity. My job is not to do work, it's to make sure the work gets done.
Well, you failed in getting the work done for ironing the curtains.
Yeah, definitely. But as I say, I hadn't, been up there forever and I've never noticed because, they're curtains. It's like curtains and carpet. Sally was saying, "What do you think of this carpet?" I don't give a fuck. It's a carpet. You know what I mean? I'll be walking on it.
As long as it's not a certain colour.
Yeah, well, she knows that. She wouldn't try that.
Where do you stand on slippers?
I'm wearing a pair right now.
Right. Now, I've been going on about this for a while, right? And people are fed up with me going on about it, right? But I have to tell you, right? These bad boys, right? I don't know if you've seen them. B&M, £3.99.
But you haven't even worn them yet. How do you know? All right, are your previous pairs?
Yes. Actually, that they were for a giveaway, right? But £3.99, David, right? B&M's, comfiest. They've even got wee grips on them and everything, right? I don't know why I haven't made Rabble ones yet, right? Because that would be the smart thing.
Yeah, I mean, you need to. No, I my feet get cold. I don't like walking about. I don't like wearing shoes in the house just because I'm uncomfortable. And
I've been going on about them for weeks. I honestly,
that's the best comment we've ever had. For those of you who listen to the audio version, Red Rock put a comment and said, "Oh God, no, not the fucking slippers." Right, we better go into Rangers.
Yeah, I know. Everybody, even Scott, are getting really fit. I've been going on about them for weeks, and I've actually.
See if you can get a deal with the slipper manufacturer.
Well, I'll tell you something. I can't remember the exact area, right? But we've got a guy, one of our guys, a bit like you've got David Graham, we've got William from across the water. Ballymena. They sold out of them in Ballymena after I was going on about them.
There you go.
So I sold out of B&M and didn't get a penny for it.
Well, get in touch with them and say, look, even just give me a free supply of them, but I'm doing your job. Yeah, we better get on to football here.
Yes. Right, okay, on to football. David, I don't know if you heard, Kevin Thelwell and Patrick Stewart have been sacked. Did that come as a major shock to you?
It did, and anybody says they weren't shocked. It was twofold in a way, I suppose, or rather it was two-sided. Them going wasn't a shock. The timing of it was. And both of them going together, and the club being at pains to point out that they'd both been sacked. Because Rangers in the past, the last few years, have always let people go with a face-saving way of going. So people who were going to be fired were informed that they would be leaving, but they would be allowed to work a short notice period and say that they were moving on to a different challenge. I won't name names, but you'll go back and read the people leaving things and you'll see, which I didn't like, incidentally, because I think it made Rangers look weak and it made them look like people were choosing to leave when they weren't. They were being fired. But equally, you can't argue that from a people point of view, it was a nice thing to do. There was none of that here, because I thought what they might do was Patrick Stewart was coming up for a year, I think December 17th. And I thought they might then get to a year and say Patrick is leaving. He was only ever coming in for a year to do to oversee the takeover. We thank him, he's away. So I thought they might do that. And then Thelwell, I thought, would hang on to the summer. And then again, Thelwell leaving, new challenge. Nope, gone. And it happened very quickly. And it did happen very quickly because you hear what we all hear whispers, right? We live in and around Glasgow, the Central Belt. Internet these days, social media, there's usually something. Even what there was nothing at all until it happened. Staff didn't know that it was coming. There was no indication whatsoever at the game on Saturday that this was happening. And yeah, I think it was dramatic and it's big because I don't know about you, I can't remember any club parting with the CEO and the a big club, a club our size. I should qualify that. I can't remember that happening.
No.
So I am surprised at the timing of it, and as I say, I'm surprised at the way they wanted it known that it was a sacking. And Andrew Kavanagh, he said he didn't want to say nasty things about them when they were leaving, which is correct. There's no need to do that, I think. But then he maybe accidentally on purpose, he said something that was brutal in its own way, which was, when we look at what we need, what we think we need in a CEO and a sporting director, that's not who they are. And that's pretty brutal. That's pretty damning on them. So, yeah, gone, and very much gone immediately. No notice, no hanging about, no niceties. These were sackings. These were informed, you're no longer wanted, you are to leave this club. And I don't think, I haven't heard people saying, I disagree with that. Honestly, we talk about Rangers fans and that we disagree and there's not always consensus. Well, there's consensus on this. There was consensus on Russell Martin. So that's united. These were bad hires. There's no getting away from it.
Horrendous hires. I mean, we were about a month away, I think, from every single member of Thelwell's family getting a job at Rangers.
Yeah, look, I
pretty bad.
That is because this is nothing to do with Rangers. Even people who are not Rangers fans look at that and go, "Come on!" It's just something that you can't do. You can do it if you own the company. It's your company. Hire, Rupert Murdoch with his kids. You can do that. It's your company. Do whatever you like. But I think that we don't really like nepotism in Britain. We know it goes on. Of course it does, right? But we don't like it, and we certainly don't like it in a football club. And I just think that it did look like either he didn't know not to do it, which was a bad look, or that he knew how it would look, but he decided to do it anyway, which was an even worse look. So there was no good.
Well, David, he tried to palm it off onto Purdy. That was, if you're, and you will, because you were there, remember that presser where he's like, I didn't want him. But
the bullshit.
He wanted him in.
He came away with a line. He said, Robbie doesn't need any help in his career from me. Well, he said 4 jobs and you've given him 2. So, and again, that's why, incidentally, I wouldn't, if I was younger Thelwell, I wouldn't want to work there, because you need to, whether you're great at your job or not, people will always go, aye, but. So you need to kind of forge your own path, your own career. There was that, and of course Chermiti, and these were, I'm convinced, the 2 things that sunk him. And also Ali McCoist, I thought, was spot on the other day, where he said the recruitment has been abysmal, not bad, not poor, abysmal. And that's the thing. There is a level, because if he'd come in and the recruitment had been mixed, even tending to disappointing, then I think there's a legit argument for saying, okay, he was new in the door, he's learned, let him go out and apply that learning. But it was so bad that you couldn't do that you had to go, no, I'm sorry. There are some things that are so catastrophically bad that you pay for it. And I mentioned this on Twitter a few months ago, about maybe 6 weeks ago. I can't think of many jobs where performing like he performed, you would pass your probation.
No.
Really, I can't think.
It's not even just the recruitment. I mean, it's Russell Martin. It's everything.
And it's the backing of it wasn't just that. I mean, I've mentioned this a few times, so sorry for repeating myself, but I think there are mistakes that are difficult to pull people up for too much, because they can only be seen with hindsight. And hindsight is, of course, very easy. But Russell Martin was not one that could only be seen with hindsight. It went exactly how every Rangers fan thought it would go. Yusuf Chermiti could be seen not with Rangers cannot spend £8 million on a player for 2-3 years down the line. It just isn't feasible at the moment. Who knows? Maybe if we've had 5 years of success and a settled squad, it's a different thing. But right now, you can't do it. These are gargantuan mistakes. Then you chuck in the rest of the recruitment has been so bad and lazy, because he said, well, it was quick, so we had to go to a market that we knew. Well, okay, Kev, but a cursory look at Rangers over the last 3 years, 5 years, would say they shop in that market and it doesn't work for them. He clearly didn't even do that. Or if he did do it, he thought, but I'm cleverer. And I do think there was a lot of condescension involved. I do think there was a lot of, from ownership down, in the new hires. Well, we've got experience in England. We've got experience in the US. We've worked in the Premier League, right? We're in this backwards Hicksville League. Of course, we're going to absolutely scoosh it. I think there was an element of that. And
there was with Thelwell, 100%.
Yeah, I don't doubt that for a second. I think that they genuinely thought we're coming for the big leagues, which they were. But the idea that you just copy and paste from England has been disproven now so many times that it doesn't work. You're in a different environment, different circumstances. If you do the same things, you were a bus driver, right?
Unfortunately.
It's the same thing, driving, as what Lewis Hamilton does. But if we put you in a Formula One car this week, you're not going to, and he's not going to. He's not going to safely get. He's not going to safely get people around the track, around the bus route either. You need to adapt your skills to each situation and set of circumstances you find yourself in. He didn't. I think he massively, massively underrated it. He's not the first. God, we can go back, Paul Le Guen, etc. But if you do that, if you come into Scottish football and you think it's going to be a doddle, or that you can run Rangers the way you run other clubs, it's a nonsense. So, the owners, they don't get a pass, but we have to let them have another opportunity. We didn't have to let Thelwell have another opportunity, and I'm very glad we didn't, because the guy was awful. I mean, just a signal failure on every level.
They don't get a pass, but even if they don't get a pass, there's not really a lot we can do about it.
Well, that's the thing, right?
They own the football club.
They own the football club, and as we've seen the last 20 years in football, the money now is so big that that's what gets them out the door. But what we have to expect now is that, okay, you were just in the door and you didn't know and you made mistakes. You're 6 months in now. You should at least know what doesn't work, because you've done it. So I mentioned earlier there are certain types of mistakes. Another thing I really don't like is when people make the same mistakes.
Yes.
And if we get the same thing, that was what the old board did. They did the same thing over and over and hope for a different result. Then I'll be very angry and disappointed. I think that we've got, still we have a situation that will need unpicked. And like for example, we're all in a better mood because these two are gone. But it's not going to make the squad any better. We're not going to turn up to play Braga tomorrow night and the team's suddenly better. It doesn't work like that. The damage that Thelwell in particular did will need to be unpicked. But also the damage that Stewart did, right? Because Stewart, again, disastrous tenure coming in, came in. There's the League Cup final. He didn't do enough on the referee in front. He's just in the door, so okay. Clement backs him after Queen's Park. Didn't take on the challenge. Remember, the club went dark for 5 days after Queen's Park, nothing at all, right? That was hiding, and that pissed me off. And that comes from the top. Comes out eventually and backs Clement, has to sack him 2 weeks later. The Tifo, complete and utter misunderstanding of the club, the support, and the who his audience was. That was trying to sook up to people who hate us. That was trying to get credit from people who hate us at our expense, and that correctly badly damaged him. Russell Martin backed him, to the hilt. Kevin Thelwell, he picked Kevin Thelwell, he appointed Kevin Thelwell, and he backed him. And he was just a really unimpressive wee guy. There's no getting away from it. He was a poor speaker.
Very poor speaker.
And you need to be a good communicator in this role, because look, whether we like it or not, football's the entertainment business. You're trying to bring people in off the street to pay money to watch this, right? You've got to be able to communicate. You've got to be able to do that and give off a sense of confidence, give off a sense of assuredness. I know what I'm doing. He couldn't do that. And then I've just went through a lot of the major decisions. Every one of them was wrong. And again,
Everyone.
you know, the question I asked is, what did he improve in his year at Rangers? I can't see anything. So there might well be stuff, but certainly Rangers have not been singing and dancing about it if there is. And the fact he got sacked indicates that there probably wasn't.
No, and I'm sorry, right? I don't care what club you're at. See, if you're the CEO and your response to a supporter is, well, who would you have as manager? No, that's that for me, like you say, that's not just poor communication. That's somebody that has absolutely no clue what they're doing. You can't be the CEO of Rangers Football Club and respond that way to supporters, regardless of how aggressive you think they're being. If you think they're being aggressive, you call security. You don't then go back and forth with supporters.
You disarm it. You know, again,
well,
it's
Thelwell actually did that, to be fair to him.
Thelwell did do that. And even at the press conference for Danny Rule, the unveiling, Thelwell put his case forward. Now, I disagreed with a lot of it, but just from a point of view of, did he argue it? Yes, he did. Right. Stewart didn't. He just sat there with his, with a sour face through the whole thing. And he gave the impression that he was angry at people picking on him. Mm-hmm. He was just a guy in totally the wrong role. It was like casting Tom Cruise as O.J. Simpson. It just was never, ever going to work. It was somebody
you could have said casting Tom Cruise as Jack Reacher. It was never going to work. You could have said that.
I haven't watched any new television or movies since about 2000, so all my references are last century. But yeah, I just think that he was a guy that was totally wrong for the role. His skill set in business may have been right, but there's a lot more to it at Rangers than just that. He didn't have the stature. He didn't have the command. He didn't have an aura, for want of a better word. But aura doesn't have to be, David Murray of that kind of, alpha male thing. It doesn't have to be that. Aura can be competence. You can give off a vibe of, okay, it's not looks. You don't have to be, big, tall, well-built, handsome. You can look like Patrick Stewart and still give off an air of, okay, he knows what he's doing. He never did that. He never managed to convince supporters.
I know what
well, you're short, aren't you? Yeah, so you get it. But he never ever gave off that sense of that. And to me, he looked like a guy who knew that he was in a situation that he was not up to. And when that happens, if even the person doesn't believe in themselves, what chance have they got of succeeding? And then lastly, again, Ali McCoy's hit the nail on the head when he said there comes a point where it's too far gone, and that was it. Rangers fans were never going to accept these two. They'd made too many big mistakes. And what worried me about the January window, apart from obviously the fact he'd signed so many guys who've so far been unimpressive, was the guys were going to start up against it, the new signings, because we would all be thinking, he signed them. How good can these boys be? And now they don't. Yeah, it was almost like they would have the kind of stench of him would have attached it to them through no fault of their own. And now that won't happen.
This is the really difficult part for me, because I'm not quite as old as you, right? But I'm still old enough that I remember football. When I messaged you and I went, do you remember the 80s? Do you remember the 90s when we just literally focused on the team? And that was it. We didn't, people know who Martin Bain is, but did we really know what Martin Bain's job was? Well, you would have, because of what you were doing at the time. But most of us would go, Martin Bain, he's like a director or something. So we weren't really that into it. So I suppose this is quite a difficult question. In terms of the director of football, sporting director, whatever the hell you want to call it, what next? Who's next?
Well, we'll need to find someone. A few people said that to me. It's like, should we abandon the model? Because we have tended to lurch between the various systems. We've tended to go, when something doesn't work, we tend to go 180 basically. And I don't think that's the right idea. The way I would describe it is if you've got a poor goalkeeper, you don't abandon the goalkeeping position. You buy another goalkeeper. And it's the same way a director of football. If you don't have a person who's good at the job, it doesn't mean the job's wrong. It means the person is wrong. And I think that Rangers, need to do that. I've sat here on this show and I've said it umpteen times. And again, I apologise for boring the listeners with it. But I don't get why in Britain, and it seems to be Britain almost exclusively, that directors of football are not people who've been in football. And by that, I mean ex-players, coaches, whatever. Abroad, it is. You go to Germany and you read the names of these guys, don't you? Sometimes you go, oh, he's a director. I remember him when he was playing it, whatever. Because their view on it is they can't teach them that, but they can teach them business when they retire. Yeah. And they grow their own. And we don't do that. And I never understand it. You get someone like, off the top of my head, right, Lee McCulloch. Lee McCulloch's been involved heavily for years at scouting at Brighton. He knows every scout in the world. He's been responsible for millions of pounds of spend at Brighton, analytics, all of that stuff. He works for the club as an ambassador. I mean, to me, I'm looking at this and I'm going, hold on. Here's a guy who's got a contact book of every agent. He's got a, analytic list of every single player. He's spent more money on players, or he's been responsible for spend for more money on players in the last 5 years than Rangers have spent. Would it not occur to somebody to go, Jig, come here?
Do you think we completely overthink that role then?
I think again that we have been impressed, and when I say we, I mean boards, with people coming from England. I think that we see the glamour of the EPL. And we think, ooh. And I think that we also have had people who've been impressed by presentations, by buzzwords, by modern football go-to language. It all sounds very modern. I mean, Russell Martin press conferences all sound very modern. It's all bullshit, though, once you examine it. Yeah. But I don't think we did examine it. I think we were taken in by it. And, of course, we a history of that going back to Pedro. But I think that so overthink it is one thing. And again, maybe forget to bring our values as Rangers and as Scottish football to the table. We're so impressed with them and theirs. And don't get me wrong, nobody I know is going to argue that the Scottish League is better than the EPL. It's not. Quality-wise, we know that, right? Money, etc. We know that. We're not daft, but it is different. And therefore, if you don't accept those differences, and if you are blinded by the big lights of the EPL, and Rangers FC, not just this board, previous board as well, have been blinded by the glamour of the EPL, you need to get over yourself. You need to go, it's brilliant, all well and good, but actually, here's what we need, and work to that.
But they're also looking at a league, and I know that you do an EPL show in Heart and Hand, so you'll know a lot more. We do one as well, but I tend to try not to do it because I don't really know much about the EPL. You know a lot more than me. They're looking at a league where you have to spend, and correct me if I'm wrong here, David, on average about 120 million a season just to survive. You
have to, yeah. I mean, it's a completely different market. It's such a different market. It's almost not comparable. And I, sometimes jokingly, when we're watching a game in the Champions League or whatever, it's a really good one, you'll go, Christ, it's like a different sport from what we watch. And it's a joke, but there's a bit of an element of truth to that in it, because it's a completely different world. And again, that doesn't mean there's nothing you can take from it or learn from it or adapt into. Of course not. But it does mean that there are things that are just irrelevant. And they are. They're just irrelevant. Scouting guys, 80, 90 million is irrelevant, just as a very basic thing of putting it. That doesn't mean there's not things like nutrition and playing styles and stuff that can be adapted. But also, again, on a practical level, Russell Martin, a guy who looked at Pep Guardiola's Barcelona and went, I want to play like that. Well, Pep Guardiola had Busquets and Iniesta and Xavi and Messi.
No, they were okay.
You can't do that. And that's what I mean about just being aware. And I think that I'd like us to be a wee bit more front foot with, that's great, but here's what we need. And look for that, as opposed to just assuming that what they bring must be good enough for us. Because we've got now 5 years of proof that says it isn't.
5 years of proof and roughly 5 weeks, give or take, until the transfer window opens.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, we have no director of football, no sporting director. Fraser Fortin's came in as obviously temporary CEO. So to your knowledge, is it Kavanagh and Marath who are picking the next director of football? Is it Steinson? Are they using an agency? And I suppose that the biggest question is, if it isn't done pronto, who's dealing with the transfer window?
Well, there's still the recruitment staff in place. That's the thing. Robbie Thelwell is still there. Dan Purdy is still there. Long term, whether they'll be or not is another question, but they are still there. So deals can still get done. Danny Rule is still there and will have input clearly on what he wants and what not. And then, yes, it'll be down to the owners to pick the new CEO, the new director of football coming in. And I think they alluded to that in their statement. I think they said that. To be honest, I think that's when we all realised that Stewart and Thelwell were on a sugary peg, was when Martin was sacked and they put that open letter out the next day saying we are looking for the next manager. Does
that worry you, David?
Well, I think they picked a better manager than Stewart and Thelwell did, so I'll give them that. Look, no, that's the way it has to be. Of course, senior people at the club have to decide on senior appointments. They need to,
just from the experience point of view, and
Oh, look, I've said before. I mean, I'd be getting Souness in as a director. I'd be getting the guys. I'd be speaking to Bomber and Haitley, etc., and Barry. To get their views. Of course, I would. You'd be daft not to. I think it's self-defeating not to do that. I think we tried in the summer, the whole, we know what we're doing. No, you didn't. So to me, I mean, in any circumstance, I speak to people who have got experience of it. And it doesn't mean I go along 100% with what they tell me, but it means I soak up the information before I make a decision. But so I mean, I think this window will take care of itself. And I think it will be probably about maybe 4 or 5 incomings at most, at the very most. So I think that it's fairly straightforward, and they want someone in long before the summer window. But he did say, to be fair to Kavanagh, he did say it won't be an immediate, there's not somebody coming in. Although he did say, and I'm maybe reading too much into it, he did say because of notice periods, which kind of made me think, do they know the guy they want in?
Well, the timing for me said a couple of things, and it could mean none of them. It said either Kavanagh's woke up from the drowsy sleep that he was in and finally realised that Thelwell was no good at his job. They've had a big argument about something, whether that's A, B, C, or D. I don't want to speculate because I have no idea. Danny Rowe's traffic light system, maybe, I don't know. Or something else, a little bit more serious has went on in the background and they found out. Now, I think
it's a culmination. I don't think it was one thing.
It's the timing of it as well, though.
Yeah,
because,
but remember the idea.
He's on our TV with his interview.
Listen, see stuff like that. Here's how stuff like that works. People said to me at the time. I remember actually having this chat with a journalist coming out at the press conference. He went, "Well, he can't sack them after backing them." Danny Rule unveiling. I was like, "I can." So people lie up there, or they say things that because you've always got the catch of it was true at the time, but things have changed, right? So you've always got that. So no, I didn't pay any attention really to that. Thelwell doing his interview, that's something he can do. He doesn't need permission from, he goes to call them, say, "I want to do an interview." They do an interview, they put it out. And lastly, it could just be that that Kavanagh and Marathi have had this in their heads, have been, kicking it about. Do we need to make a change? Do we need to make a change? and then it's just went from maybe to across a wee bit into yes, do it. So all of these things, I just think there's a combination of factors. One, there's money. Ticket sales are down. Merchandise sales are down. And it's because of frustration at the team's performance. And that's been the feedback. It's not been we do not want to spend money with you. It's been like the team's pish. I'm not giving you any more money. You've got the two idiots in charge. And look, any business, customer spending is the thing that really gets you off your arse. So that will have been a factor. Secondly, there will be how badly they did, and they're looking at these decisions. And then, thirdly, for all we know, Kevin Thelwell went to Danny Rule with a list of players, and Rule went, no, I'm not taking any of those. And they went, this guy doesn't know what he's doing, clearly, because, you've got a manager who's there who's saying, I don't want the players that you want. So it could be any one of things. And as you say, look, I'm not going to sit here and say that there wasn't a big blow up. The reason I don't think there could have been is the two of them to go. I can't see the two of them having a massive argument. To be honest, Stewart and Thelwell aren't the type, I think, to have a big argument with Kavanagh. And they knew their jackets were halfway to the car park anyway, so I would be very surprised if they did that. I just think it's two guys that did a terrible job. And it's not a surprise sacking.
No, it's not a surprise sacking. I think it's the timing of it.
It's the timing, but I suppose it had to happen at some point. And again, the fact is that it is a sacking, but then Rangers maybe wanted to make a statement, which they certainly have.
Yes, they have. Now, I was talking to quite a big investor into Rangers, somebody who you'll know, and he said to me that I've put X amount in over the last 2 or 3 years, and I don't think I want to do it anymore. This was obviously before all this happened. And he's like, it's not just me. He's like, there's loads of investors at the club who are getting fed up, absolutely fed up with handing over X amount of cash. And we're not talking about a $5 or a $10 here, X amount of cash. And what are we seeing for it? And they go on all the away trips, the ones that Rangers put on, and like that. But we're just not doing it anymore. So I think that's a huge factor. Yeah, absolutely. That categorically will have been a factor.
And these guys have access to senior people at Rangers because of the money they put in. And you're right, I've heard similar from them. They're like, I'm sick of this. We put this money in, we never get anything back, and it's not even enjoyable to watch. So all of that. And by the way, these are people that, if you are going to be the CEO of Rangers or the sport, you need to manage relationships with.
You have to.
Because they're big, In the same way, by the way, this is not unique to Rangers. It's every football club, but it's every business. In the same way that if you are, a telly company, and you've got a company that spends a fortune on adverts, you have got to be nice to the person who owns that business. It's just common sense. That will categorically have been a factor. There's zero doubt about it, because it is business at the end of the day, and these are businessmen. And when money is being withheld due to performance of certain individuals, then that is going to... Because here's the thing, you can keep them for sheer bloody mindedness. You can keep them because we're not giving in to fans. But what if you think they're doing a bad job as well?
Yeah.
You're not going to then go, I'm definitely keeping them. You go, no, hold on a minute here. Nobody likes these guys. I don't like these guys' job that they're doing. They're gone. I think that's probably, Occam's razor. I think it's just probably been that there's been so many fuck-ups, so many errors, so many mistakes, and people are so pissed off with the result of it that in the end they went, nah, let's just do this. Clean break, do it, big dramatic statement, give everybody a boost as well, and it's done. And that's what they've done.
So we'll go on to something a bit more positive, shall we? Quite a lot of injuries in David.
Well, it's the time of year, isn't it? It's the great Rangers injury crisis.
It's every year. I think
the international break crystallises it a bit. And that pisses me off. And I'm not the only one. I've got my cousin's an Arsenal fan, and he was complaining because he lost Gabriel for 2 months. It's annoying. It really is to be losing players. To be honest, Cornelius has looked as though he's been carrying an injury.
Which is it was friendlies for Canada. So I don't know. Did we put for Cornelius, right? Because I think out of all the players that are out, I mean, Bailey Rice wasn't getting anywhere near the team, let's be brutally honest. Yeah. Although I do feel sorry for the boy having to get an operation. Rothwell, clearly, I just don't think Rule likes him very much. But the fact that it's Suter and Cornelius.
Suter, we know when it happened in the warm-up before Scotland-Denmark. So that's just unfortunate. Cornelius, I think, is a gradual thing. I think that, how many times has he been taken off with like 5 minutes to go, 10 minutes to go? So they were clearly just kind of patching him up and getting him through. Clearly he needs an operation, so you're as well just getting it done rather than going on with this. It's a big bugbear for all club fans, which is international football. But here's the thing, at the end of the day, players want to play. And this thing that fans have got, that we'll just tell them it doesn't work. One, you don't want a reputation going about that you stop players playing for their country, because a lot of them very much want to. Most of them do, in fact.
A lot of them, it's the caps that matter.
It's going and it's achieving. And a lot of them are fiercely patriotic. They really want to play for their country. Secondly, you can't stop them, because if a player is selected, they need to go. The player themselves has to formally retire from international duty before they're allowed not to go. FIFA prioritise international football. So this thing about, we'll tell them they're not playing if they go on international duty, fine, they won't play and then they'll leave. Now, with some of our players right now, that's not a bad thing. But you have to let players go to international football, as frustrating as it is for us. I think there can be a bit of common sense and give and take if a player is carrying an injury and he's off for a friendly. But the other thing as well, to us, it's just friendlies. To them, it's like, if I don't go, they'll pick somebody else and I'll lose my place in the team. Yeah. So there's all of those. Look, see, at the end of the day, we can talk around this all day. It's not going to change. This is how it is.
Do we, and by the way, just the Great Wall of Canada, I understand why you're saying why not. Fergie did it at United, and I know that Cornelius is one of your players, but there's not many people who are Sir Alex Ferguson. So,
and United were, at the time, the most successful club in England by a mile. Players were queuing up to sign for them. They could do that. We can't. If we get a reputation in the market as a club that stopped players doing it, then players just won't come. So we are not Man United circa 1990, and it's just not an applicable comparison. And also the fact that you've needed to go back to a guy who has been out of football for 15 years shows you how rare it is. Do you think that Arsenal wanted Gabriel going off when he was nursing a knock? Of course they didn't.
That's not been 15 years, has it?
No, 13. 12 and a half.
Is it as long as that?
May 2013, Fergie retired. So it's because it was the day I got married. That's how I always remember it. Look, players want to go. So the idea, again, it's something that our support, because we live and breathe Rangers, right? Mm-hmm. Our fans believe that we have agency in things that we don't. The best example that I can remember, for example, was vaccine passports. And fans were saying, Rangers should just tell them to fuck off. It's the law, right? They can't. But because Rangers are so important to us, we assume Rangers are so important to the world. And unfortunately, at times we're not. We're a massive institution, of course, but we don't, we don't get to tell FIFA and UEFA where to go and stick their international football up their arse. That
was the only reason, by the way, that I get the COVID jag, was so that I could go to Dortmund to watch Rangers.
Yeah, at the end of the day, that was the thing. Rangers had Rangers said, well, we're not applying that. And if you remember how they did it, remember it was the most half-arsed thing in the world. Remember that they would search or ask 1 out of 1,000 people if they had the thing. And if they did, they let them in anyway. They weren't asked with it, but they couldn't say, we're not doing it, because it was a law.
And if you wanted to get on a plane to follow your team in Europe and you didn't have the vaccine, you weren't going anywhere.
You couldn't get on the plane. No, I was the same. I mean, I remember having to get a COVID test to have like within 24 hours of travel, and it was like 80 quid. I had to go to the one in, the one at the St Enoch Centre in Glasgow. It was a pain in the arse. You know what I'm like about leaving the house.
Yes.
And when I was going to have to leave the house the next day, it was 2 hours, for fuck's sake. But you had to do it. But yeah, I think sometimes our support tend to think, well, Rangers is all that matters, and this isn't good for Rangers, so therefore they can just turn around and tell people they don't want to do it, and we can't, unfortunately. Players want to play for their international team. What you can do to get around it is perhaps that you maybe then, if you don't want players playing for international, I suppose you can not sign internationals. But the other thing about that is as well that if we stop our players playing internationals, then when we come to sell them, we don't get as much as we think they're worth. So there's always
again, it's just the injury thing. Though, if you've got an injury, just don't go. But I know. Listen, I get all the arguments.
I agree with that. But the thing is, the players are scared of losing their place in the squad, and that's why
Absolutely.
they go.
Where's that comment? You're lucky you never had Justin Trudeau, Martin. I've never heard of the guy. I'm not even
He was a Canadian.
Not even going to go there,
Yeah,
just in case there's people watching, David.
What's wrong with it, right? Jerry Sadowitz once got punched at the Just for Laughs festival in Montreal. Do you know the line that got him punched?
No.
Well, he walked on stage and he opened with "Good evening, moose fuckers," which didn't get him off to a great start. But then he went, "Do you know what the problem is with you lot?" And the crowd went, "No." He went, "It's that half of you speak French and the other half of them let them." And some French Canadian ran up and hooked him.
By the way, I've heard, and I don't know if it's true, you don't mess with the French Canadians.
But they're French. I mean, they'll surrender at some point, surely.
You would like to think so, wouldn't you?
I'll just assume,
unless your name's Candace Owens. But we shan't go there. Right, we will finish up just about there, David. Just quickly want to touch on. Really quick question.
Sure.
We don't know the time limit on Cornelius's injury, but it sounds like it's going to be
minimum 2 months, I think.
Do we send him back and get another defender in January?
If it's any longer, then maybe we might have to do that. Yeah, but then it'll depend on whether there's a clause in the contract that says you can, because sometimes you're committed to keeping the player for a year regardless. So we'll have to wait and see on that. But I think with Sterling coming back, if he stays fit, then there's a kind of replacement. But I think we still need balance in that defence. So I'm kind of glad to see us using Fernandes. He did cost $3.5 million, remember, and he's a left-sided centre back. And Nsiala, who look, I'm not saying the boy's a world beater because he's not, but there's something there. You could hopefully fashion a decent enough defender at Nsiala. Certainly, he didn't deserve to be cast to Siberia for no fucking
not in the
reason
Euro
under
squad,
Russell
was
Martin.
he?
No, he's not. But just for the rest of the season, he didn't deserve that under Russell Martin. And again, it shows you that the football people talk pish all the time. Remember with Kieran Dowell, he's like, well, I don't know what's went before, so everyone here's getting a fresh start. And then 2 minutes later, no, I've told Nsiala he should go. Well, what happened? Everybody was getting a fresh start 2 minutes ago. It's just pish.
Aye, I felt a wee bit sorry for Nsiala.
I did very much. He hadn't done, like you might not rate him, right? That's fair enough. But if he couldn't get a move, or he didn't get a move, then you get him in the first team squad and you see what you can get. Because you're still paying the boy his wage anyway. Mm-hmm. So it was just a waste. And it was like Hadji last year, remember? It's like, we are paying him. We might as well try and use him. And that's what I'm like with Nsiala. If he's not going to play, sell him. But otherwise, see what you can get out of him.
But not just that. He did give me... I did see him hook somebody at a B-team game. So that shows you how committed he was.
That person must have deserved it.
It must have deserved it, and it must have showed you how committed he was. It had nothing to do with the fact that it was pissing down and it was Baltic. It had nothing to do with it.
Scotland.
Right, just before we go, Nico Raskin kind of gave one to Russell Martin, and not in a good way, in the press conference today. He basically alluded to the fact that a lot was said about him during that time when Russell Martin was the manager that wasn't true. The new manager that has come in and gave them clarity and understanding. He's very happy to be at Rangers. He doesn't want to leave for free. The reason, it was a mental press conference. The reason that he left his last club for free was because they changed owner and there was loads of guys in the same position and he didn't want to do it. He wants to give back to the club. It was just a mental press conference, David.
Russell Martin and Nico Raskin didn't get on. Shocker.
I don't think so. I don't think they're on each other's Christmas card list.
That's what I mean. I don't think it's just a huge shock to hear that from Nico. Look, we all tell you right now, he's not going anywhere in January. Okay, doesn't want to risk his place in the Belgian squad. Personally, I don't think he's playing well enough to be a guaranteed starter for Rangers.
No,
and I know that I'll get people in the comments because if you criticise Nico, there's a section of the Rangers support that are just pitchfork ready. But I think he's been below what he can be. But recently, so I think he needs to pick up his form. And I think then the idea is he goes, has a good World Cup, and Rangers get a good fee for him, year remaining or not, and we move on. So I think that's always been his plan, and I think that's what will happen. But I would just like him to up his form a wee bit. I think he needs to remember that, yes, he's in the Belgian team, he's playing for the Belgian team, but if his form at Rangers is poor, the Belgian manager is not short of options. Yes. And, so I think he needs to up his game. I do pick on Raskin a wee bit more than certain others because he's a better player. There's no point shouting at somebody who's pish for being pish. That's all they've got. Nico isn't. He's very good, and we know what he can be, and that's why I get frustrated when he isn't that.
Yeah. It's when you know somebody's got that potential, and I don't know if this makes it kind of worse that if he's, and not just Raskin, this goes for loads of players. They're not in the best of form, and then they go away with their country and they play really well. And you go, what's the script here?
Yeah, sometimes it's a system thing. Sometimes they're playing lesser opposition, remember? That can happen as well. But I think with Nico is, we all know what he's got about him. It was about this time last year, though, that he started hitting really good form. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed for that.
He did admit, to be fair to him in the press conference, he says, he didn't say I've not been in great form, but he says I'm nowhere near my best.
No, he's not.
I don't know if it's physical or if it's mental after everything that happened under Russell Martin.
Well, I mean that's legit. So now though he's got a manager who clearly trusts him, rates him, values him, it's time for him to start. Because Nico Raskin should be dominating games in Scotland. Yeah, that's a fact.
I've said it, and I get lambasted for it when he's on form and he's playing the best of his ability. He's the best player in Scotland for me.
I think so when he's at it, yeah. When he's fully at it, because he can break up play, he can get forward and score goals, right? I mean, he can really, really help you.
He can header a ball.
He can help. He really can. But he can help you in so many different areas, and he should be dominating games in Scotland, in my opinion, because he's got the ability to do it. Whereas there's other players at Rangers who don't have that ability. So you're right. I don't judge them as harshly because they're not as good as him. And I hope we see it, and I hope he leaves after putting in, hell of a good performances for now at the end of the season. I think he will leave in the summer after the World Cup, but I'd love us to be going, on you go, wee man.
There's a league winners medal, Nico.
Aye, go and have a great World Cup and we'll pick up a good fee for you. I mean, that's ideal. But also, here's the other thing, you don't want to coast up until 6 months, because then how can you switch it on when you get to the World Cup?
Very true. Very true. And I've purposely not asked you about this, David, right? Because I'm not confident. We'll have a makeshift defence in a way, because I'm pretty sure Tav's going to start. I'm pretty sure Fernandez and Giga's going to start, and I'm pretty sure Magoma's going to have to start because he's the only left back we've got. Like we're saying, Nico's not in the best form. Our strikers can't score goals. It's a very good Braga team that's coming to Ibrox tomorrow. Just a very, very, very quick summary, the quickest preview you've ever done in your life. Are you looking forward to tomorrow?
I always like going, but yeah, look, reality is that we are going to have to produce a performance that's better than anything we've produced so far this season. And certainly if we're anywhere near the level we were on Saturday, then we will get cuffed. because we were dreadful on Saturday, victory or no victory. I think that I wouldn't be surprised if he maybe sets us up a bit different, maybe even a 3. I don't know. I'm just saying. I could see that with Aarons coming in and Tav slotting in one to try and offer us a wee bit more protection. But like you, with this Rangers team at the moment, I worry where the goals are coming from.
Yeah, that's the main. No, it's not even the main. It's one of the main issues I've got with this Rangers team now. But anyway, listen, David, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much.
Pleasure, mate.
We'll speak in a couple of weeks, hopefully,
Absolutely.
after we've gained some ground in the league. We've pumped Braga after me and you being confident, and the world is rosy with a new director of football, and just everything will be rosy the next time we speak.
Absolutely. That's the attitude, my man. If nothing else, it'll be 2 weeks closer to Christmas, so there's that.
Don't make it worse, man.
I love Christmas.
Oh, no, I hate it. Despise it. Well, it's too long a story. Listen, everybody, thank you very, very much. And of course, if you haven't already, which you probably have, but if you haven't, go over to Patreon and check out Heart and Hand over there. And if you're one of those people who's always said, I don't like Patreon, I hate Patreon, well, guess what? Heart and Hand are now on YouTube as well. Memberships, so you can check them out there. You can check out the Rabble there. And I'm speaking to your people now, David. If you think I'm better looking than David and a better host, feel free to come and try the Rangers Rabble.
No, I'm always telling them that.
Just don't tell David.
No. The more the merrier. There's room for everybody. You know,
that's just because that. You know that's so, good looking.
Well, you're better looking than me, but that's hardly fucking saying anything. That's like being the deadliest striker at Rangers right now. You know, it's not a crowded field.
So who's Danilo and who's Chermiti?
Yeah, exactly. Oh God, see when you put it like that.
Yes. Right, folks, thank you very, very much. Whether you're listening on the Rabble Network or the Heart and Hand networks, thank you so much for tuning in, and we shall speak very, very soon.